Hi, good day, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about passkeys and making them work in the enterprise. Now, we're all familiar with FIDO and why FIDO is a good thing. And an industry standard is a great place to start because at least you get stuff working together. Now, a key thing to think about, though, when it comes to where to use these FIDO standards is that FIDO was primarily built as a consumer-focused solution. And enterprises, strangely enough, have got slightly different requirements from your average consumer. But at least it was built with things like high security and using cryptography-based authentication instead of using the stuff that we're used to, good old passwords and OTPs, which no one particularly likes. But a key thing about FIDO, which you've probably realized right now with passkeys from a few of the sessions, is phishing resistance. Now, this is something that's very, very critical in the consumer space and is also in the enterprise space. But at the moment, it's quite lacking in the enterprise unless the enterprise is using something like PKI or smart cards or something like that. For phishing resistance to work, we've got to have some way of taking a physical token, like a key, and making sure that that's present physically with the person, so it's not being used by someone somewhere else. Whereas things like a SIM swap attack is a great way to get OTP codes to somebody in halfway around the world. So we've got to make sure we've got that presence type of thing to ensure phishing resistance. So from there, passkeys come along, which is your little bit of crypto goodiness, which makes it all secure. And you could put them in different places with FIDO too, which is really good for flexibility and security. So if your average consumer site, you're going to a site you want to do some shopping on, you might just want to use your phone as your physical device you have with you. And that can have your passkey attached to your phone, which can then sync around somewhere else as well to a tablet or something. But for higher security environments or more in enterprises, you might want to be looking at something that's more of a device bound, that is physically within a USB token that you have to physically have with you, and it can't be synchronized or spread somewhere else. So you've got some sort of physical containment of those keys. Another nice thing about FIDO was built for self-enrollment. So it's designed to be kind of easy, because if you're a consumer and you want to go register with a bunch of shopping websites, you've got to be able to do that yourself. You can't go to help desks of Facebook and go and ask to enroll your token. So you've got to be able to do this stuff yourself. This is a good thing for enterprises as well. Embracing self-enrollment is very handy. So let's a quick look at those passkeys. Again, pictures paint 1,000 words, so you've got your two to look at. Phone-based ones, think of it as syncs around to other devices. Security keys is something physically bound, so those private keys are sticking on that device and not going anywhere else. It's important to differentiate because enterprises might want to choose the type of passkeys, storage of what they want to allow. So enterprises should care about them because passwords are very weak. OTPs can be phished, as we talked about. Push authentication, while looks sexy and great, you need connectivity and applications. And PKI, smart cards, yeah, they've all been around for a while and have certainly got their complexities to deploy. Whereas your FIDO passkeys, you've got this whole convenience factor. You don't need an app on your phone that works out the box. And you can also make them work without having to deal with the pain that comes with PKI and all the certificate management infrastructure, which can be done, but it's certainly no easy feat. So some of the basic challenges that we've found when talking to customers around passkeys in the enterprise is the adoption side of it is one, because the moment to get FIDO to work, you're going to need the website you're connecting to or working with to support passkeys. And they've got to have their own enrollment process and way of doing resets and getting you in, etc. So it's a lot of work for those sites to do. The adoption is growing, that's for sure. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's covering all enterprise web-based applications that you're familiar with today. The enrollment process is something that's got to be dealt with because you've got different websites, you've got different processes. And when we're dealing with our enterprise user base, we want something that's going to be consistent for them. And then the management is pretty key. Now, if you've got many passkeys that are registered with many different websites, you've got no central point of control. So in the PKI world, that was kind of the I, that was the infrastructure part of it, dealing with certificates and trust lists and all that kind of stuff. Now that layer doesn't exist with passkeys. So, and that's good and bad because certificates can get complicated, but it does bring an element of enterprise value. So, we've got to plug that gap somehow. So this is where we kind of come with a way of delivering passkeys to the enterprise by making use of federation. So join two standards together. So this means that websites don't need to actually support passkeys directly. As long as they can support a federation standard, then we're good to go. They give that single enrollment process for a user. Now they only have to enroll once within the federation environment, and then you can use that with other backend applications. And that also has the benefit of your passkeys are now centrally registered as well. So you only really need one passkey for that employee within the company, and they can then use that same passkey to get onto different websites and different platforms. Then you have to be a website. It could be logging onto a Windows desktop, for example. So there's different places we're able to have that single passkey being used because it's actually a passkey controlled by the enterprise rather than lots of passkeys controlled by back-end applications. So the passkey type might need to be controlled, including the vendor of a particular key. So this is something enterprises need to do. They might not necessarily want to trust that if a passkey is synced on a phone and spread around the cloud environment out of their control, they might want to make sure that the passkey is only on a physical vendor of their choosing device type. So again, consumers, not really an issue. They'll use what's convenient for them. But for an enterprise, they probably need to have some level of control for their security. And you're also going to want some consistency, even across just desktops between Windows 10 and 11 and different versions of it. You want to get a consistent experience for your users. Makes things much easier. And part of delivering this generally is we don't want to have to require PKI certificates. And this is sort of a user level certificate. We still need SSL certificates, etc. For things in transit, but deploying user level certificates can get very, very complicated, and management of them is not easy. So we want to make sure we can deploy passkeys without this being a base requirement. So some policy controls we can have available. As I said, you can restrict usage of passkeys, whether they're going to be synced or device bound. In our implementation, we even have the ability to remove the Windows password for logging onto Windows by encrypting and protecting that password, turning it into an access token, if you like, which is secured by the passkey itself. So it's a great way of reusing that passkey credential in a desktop environment. You can also then go and limit which vendors and types of keys just by ticking boxes are the ones that you like, including things like biometric keys if you want to be specific of the type of keys to use. Okay, so some real-world use cases of how we can actually make this utopia scenario I've just depicted work in the real world. I just actually want to show you how it works. So I've got a couple of videos just to walk through with you where we're going to show you how we enroll a Yubico Bio passkey within a Windows environment. So this is going to be straight from the Windows desktop with our software installed, where you can go in here and add your passkey. And for a brand new one, you register your PIN. You then touch the fingerprint reader multiple times to enroll, so the reader can actually read your fingerprint and store that on the hardware device. So this is not fingerprint stored within the operating system. This is within the FIDO security key itself. So that's literally just onboarded the security key. The user has done it themselves, so it goes back to that whole self-enrollment process. And that would be a consistent experience on all the operating systems. Now, that passkey has been registered and has been created and stored within the enterprise environment that's not registered on some external website, so it keeps the enterprise in full control. And now the next little example is, what do I do with this key? So now I can go and actually do a, hang on if I got the right slide here. No, I get the right video. Oh, geez. Okay, so now I can see on the web portal I've refreshed the screen, so you can now see the bio key I just registered. So now we're going to do an actual log on to Windows using that key. So I click sign in, I touch the security key with the fingerprint, and I'm logged into Windows. So no password required, nothing else. And with the same passkey, I'll show you the log off and log on to a website using that same credential. So touch the passkey, it's doing the standard browser-based log on for FIDO credential and boom, I'm in. So that's a real life working example of how an enterprise can go and use a single passkey stored on a hardware token and log into different environments, whether it's an operating system log on or a web-based log on. So hopefully that's made it a bit real for you. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We just had a couple of questions. We'll wrap up. But
Sure.
the first question is, what software is involved with putting that scenario into reality?
Yeah, the software that I've showed you there is the Intercede MIDI MFA solution. So it involves some on-prem software that connects to your Active Directory, and then also an agent that you install onto the Windows desktop, which brings all of this lovely FIDO capabilities to the desktop in a consistent way. That's if you want the desktop side, but if you just want to do the web-based kind of logons to web applications, our MFA server has everything in the box for you to do the FIDO logons, the federated access to backend applications.
Is there a sorry, someone just sent in a funny question. Is there a solution for folks that have like a mix of different environments, like on-prem, Microsoft? Like, is that something that you can handle if there's like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
everything's not in the same environment?
our solution is designed to be a software solution, so you can go and deploy it, install it wherever you want. So it could be a fully on-prem, it could be a fully disconnected environment, it could be in a private cloud. It doesn't matter where you want to deploy the authentication server because it doesn't care where your apps are. So the apps could be a cloud-based application or it could be an on-prem application. It's just an app as far as our server is concerned. So you're in full control of the software, the keys, everything. It stays in your environment, doesn't synchronize to ours. But the applications could be anywhere, so the user gets a consistent experience.
And what would a rollout look like from a timing perspective? And the question was, how long does it take? Months, years?
It depends on your scope of what you want to do and what applications you've got. But if you've got your users in an Active Directory already, you've got half the job done because your directory is already set up. So deploying the authentication server is pretty straightforward. It's then just a case of looking at the applications that you want to set up with Federation. So you would look at your CRM system or whatever app it is and say, okay, I'm now going to switch that application over to using OpenID Connect to our server, and therefore the access to it will be done through a FIDO logon in the future. So you can roll it out application by application. You don't have to do it as a big switch and scare everyone overnight. So there's different ways you can stage the rollout.
That's a really good point. I think it's also a question that we get a lot, which is how to look at a deployment from, you know, your user base perspective and what's the best way to go. Is it by system? Is it by employee type, et cetera? But I think the main takeaway is that it's not an all or nothing proposition, and it doesn't all have to be done overnight.
It's
Right?
not an overnight switch, and there will be nothing that will do that, quite honestly. You've got to have ways of staging this rollout. So per application is a good way. But because, again, our server is standards-based in terms of the federation protocols, you can also integrate it with an existing federation platform if you have one in place that you're looking to migrate away from. So you can then just start link them together first and then gradually move sets of users over. So there's different approaches you can take.
Well, again, thank you so much, Stephen, for this great presentation. And to the person that asked how they can obtain a shield such as the one that is behind me, that is a really good question. And we'll come back to you later on today with some kind of an answer for how you might be able to acquire one as well. We're just going to be heading into a break. We'll be back at 12 Eastern for our next session with Andrew.